Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, mothers and fathers, brothers and sisters, moms and dads, aunts and uncles and cousins, of course, and nanas and papas. That's unless you prefer grandmothers and grandfathers, and baseball fans everywhere. Welcome to this edition of the Valley Baseball League podcast. Hello, everyone. My name is Graham Knight, and on behalf of the Valley Baseball League and all the teams in this league, it is my pleasure to welcome you here tonight. Boy, do we have a show for you. Today's a red letter day for the Valley League. Take you back to one other day before I tell you why today is so important. June 26, 2018. That was a huge day. That's the first day we managed to get all 5 games of the Valley Baseball League on the live streams at the same time. Worked all summer that summer to get them on. 2017 we did about 18 live streams. 2018 we did about 100. And 2019 we were able to bring them all to you. It occurs to me as I look forward into 2021 that live streams are going to be more important than ever, because when you think of a world where coronavirus is still here for maybe 2 years and they're talking about 200,000 infections a day and 3,000 deaths, social distancing may be a factor in the upcoming baseball games, which means people are going to want to know what's going on, and live streams are going to be more valuable than ever, and we are going to be here to bring them to you. That is a promise. Anyway, June 26, 2018, first day we got all 5 games on live streams at the same time. Today's a red letter day because after about 21, 22 podcasts, not counting the baseball games we've inserted in between there, we're finally wrapping up our tour of the 11 teams in this league. We started with Bruce Alger, the president and commissioner of the Valley Baseball League, and also the president of the New Market Rebels. So it seems only right to wrap up with Jay Neal, the executive vice president of the Valley Baseball League and the president of the Strasburg Express. Jay and the Neal family are an incredible force in the Valley Baseball League. At some point I'm going to have to do kind of a special story on the Neal family and kind of their hold. The multiple generations that are bringing you Valley Baseball League games from just south of I-66. If you haven't been to Strasburg, you need to get out there. First Bank Field is really something. Anyway, today it's Jay Neal. Jay's conversation is more an audio conversation than it is a video conversation. We had to piece it together over 2 separate conversations with Jay. Had some connectivity issues like we had with Tyree Bullock from the Stanton Braves. Tyree was driving around. It's hard to take an attorney and have him drive around until you get to a really good hotspot where we can connect wirelessly. Anyway, great conversation with Jay. Some incredible insight into kind of the behind the scenes for why we had to cancel the season this year, and also an inside look at the Strasburg Express, one of the founding members of the Valley Baseball League back in the day, the franchise resurrected by the Neal family. You'll hear more about that. And hey, why have me tell you about it when you can listen to it for yourself? Here is Joe Harmon with our interview with Jay Neal. Enjoy.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Joe Harmon for the Valley Baseball League, joined here today by none other than the illustrious Jay Neal. Jay, thanks for being here with us today.
Quite an introduction.
Well, all those of us involved in the VBL certainly know you and your name, but for those not so familiar, can you just give us a little overview of what your role with the league is, please?
Well, I'm president of the Strasburg Express. I was one of the group of about 4 or 5 of us that founded the Express. I am executive vice president for the league, which simply means that I pray more for good health for Bruce Alger than any other person on the face of the planet. And I wish him continued good health.
Where's my laugh track button? I'm looking for it. Can't find it off. That's great. So as executive vice president, then that means you're on the executive committee of the league, and you were directly involved in the decision to cancel the 2020 season due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Can you tell us about that process, and what can you tell us from inside the room?
Sure, be happy to. There really weren't any secrets. Of course, we've noticed, like everyone else, the trend in sports with college baseball teams having their seasons shut down. I mean, literally, there were college baseball teams that came off the field and got met by their athletic director, indicating their season had been canceled. I mean, they had no warning, no notice, didn't know it was coming. The NCAA canceled the College World Series, which is played in July. At least the championships are played in July. They can't March, April, something like that. So my first thought was that the NCAA is canceling those championships way out earlier than initially I felt necessary. A second thought was if the NCAA is canceling their championships and the college baseball season is being canceled, that doesn't bode well for summer leagues. So you combine the NCAA canceling Northam, who I believe has the shutdown in Virginia out to the 10th day of June. I'm not sure exactly why I picked that date. I've got political suspicions, but no politics here. So even our players could not practice, so they really couldn't do anything until June the 10th. They would need at least a week to come here and hit and throw and that type of thing. So they'd be starting around the 17th, which is, good golly, you're
Right.
you're way out there. So it really knocks a hole in the season. The other big fear is that our everyone, all the teams are very careful about the players they bring. All the teams are very careful about the host families that they select. Host families fill out questionnaires, they're screened. Everyone does that, but there's no way of knowing if someone in a host family goes out, is exposed to someone with the coronavirus. They come back home, a player catches it. That is not going to look really good for the league. And the other thing is true as well. A player could come carrying the virus, have no idea that he is, and all of a sudden you get a host family sick, because we do have host families, with people, in their 60s and up. So that was the scariest thing, the health aspect. And all it takes is one member of a host family to get ill, or one player, and you're blown up. And so it just, as much as we love baseball, the risk was too great.
Absolutely. And the fans as well, right? Fans in the stands, at the concession stand, mixing and mingling. That's another big part of it. So looking at the Valley Baseball League as a whole going forward, how much of a dent in the progress that the league has been making in years does this cancellation of the season represent?
This was going to be an absolutely awesome season. There were quite a few teams in the league absolutely stocked with talent, because the NCAA allowed that seniors that would be graduating were going to have an extra year at a point where most teams had pretty much finished their recruiting. All of a sudden, you've got 25% more players available, because those seniors who wouldn't have been eligible now are more or less a junior eligibility-wise. So every team was getting phone calls from really good players that have played for them before, from coaches. I know, just speaking, and I know Parker, who's our general manager, keeps track of all that because he does our recruiting. But just the Express, and there are other teams that were equally stacked or maybe even more so. We had 6 D1 weekend starters for pitching staff. We had probably the player of the year coming from JMU, an outfielder who's a left-handed pitcher and was leading the league in hitting at the time. We have a third baseman that was coming from Auburn. I mean, we just had talent all over the place, and we were just typical of quite a few teams in the league. It was going to be a banner league, a banner summer for talent in the league, no question about it. And that's out the window. So it's everybody was really looking forward to it, because I'm sure a lot of people were looking at other teams' rosters and figuring out who they had. That happens every winter and spring, I guess. But it was sad to lose that level of talent coming. We hope we'll get the same level of talent next summer, but you never know.
And so this is obviously going to affect the league down the road as well, not just in the short term for this summer, but can you talk a little bit about some of the initiatives and progress the league has been making that this canceling the season will have an impact on, either positively, negatively, or what have you?
Yeah, the league, in my opinion, has been progressing by leaps and bounds. Just about every year, we seem to see increased talent levels. We get good reports from the Major League Baseball scouts. They like what the Valley League is doing, Bruce talks to them every year at the MLB winter meetings and get glowing reports. They really, really like what the Valley League is doing, which is a good thing.
Now, that extension for the college players to get to not lose a year of eligibility because their season was canceled, is that going to play into 2021?
It's going to make it interesting. I've heard all kinds of stuff, and NCAA's talking. I've heard everything from they can just play normally next spring. I've heard there's been a proposal that they would play a fall baseball schedule. Of course, we don't know the coronavirus is going to be out of here by fall, but they've talked about that. The problem is you've got a whole class of incoming freshmen. They're going to be there in August and September. You've still got last year's seniors. So the scholarship money that those seniors have normally would have been available because the seniors graduate and they're gone. But now you've got those seniors hanging around, and if they're staying, they get their scholarship money, presumably. And you got the freshmen coming in. So it's going to be a financial issue for the NCAA. Are they going to increase the number of scholarships allowed because of this problem? That's a good question. You've also got most of your college baseball scholarships are not like football and basketball. They're not 100%. They're percentages. Are the parents going to be able to fund an extra year of school just so junior can play another year of baseball? Having had two sons who played college baseball, yeah, we'd have sold our right arms to let them play another year. But, not every parent is lucky enough to have the funds to pay for an extra year. So there are a lot of variables still to this point, because some of those guys, even though they have another year of eligibility, it's not for certain that they're coming back.
So there are a slew of questions yet to be answered around how this shakes down for 2021. What else is on the docket for the league to make some decisions around between now and then?
Well, we've got lots of time. we have tons and tons of time to decide pretty much anything. The league was in good shape. I mean, the league is set. Every year we tweak our bylaws and our player rules and regulations, or rather game for rules and regulations. So those get tweaked every year anyway to resolve issues that came up in the previous year. We were just looking forward to a really, really good year. It was exciting. And I don't know what impact that's going to have. Those host families, most of ours, I think, are going to be even more anxious for next year to get here, because a lot of them were just super disappointed. As far as Strasburg goes, we had 5 new host families that were coming on. They were really excited, and now they're going to have to postpone it a year. I don't expect we're going to lose fans, and I don't expect we're going to lose host families, but one issue will be mass gatherings. There are going to be people that are not going to want to come out and get in a big crowd of fans watching the ball game unless there is a vaccine or something for the coronavirus. I've got clients right now that literally will not come out of their house. I've got to drive about 30 miles to get a guy to sign documents for a real estate closing because he is not going to leave his house under any circumstances. And there are people like that, and I understand their thought process, but that's not going to be good for the crowds in attendance next summer, I don't believe.
So is there anything the league can do, or steps that you are planning to take to mitigate some of those concerns, or is it just a big wait-and-see ball game here?
Combination. It's a wait-and-see ball game right now. We've got time for discussions, thankfully, and we'll talk about it in great depth, but there's only so much you can do. I mean, we can't change the stadiums. Stadium seating is stadium seating. Now, you can require people to be spaced apart, so you're kind of stretching your crowd out. And most people, they may do that anyway. The social distancing, that an expression we didn't have a year ago, as far as I know. So I would suspect fans may do that, the ones that are concerned. I don't see a whole lot that we can do as a league, although Bruce Alger is a very smart guy, so he may think up some things. Who knows?
Yeah, absolutely. So what are you and the Strasburg Express organization going to be doing this summer?
Well, I'm a lawyer by trade, and I'm retiring in August. And it was going to be a tremendous juggle, because I had to have my everything buttoned up and done by August, except for a couple little things that are intended to go on. The court docket has been backed up. No one's going to be sympathetic to that. But I've got cases I was going to try this summer that now are going to get tried after my retirement. Doesn't cause a problem. It just disrupts it a little bit. But the good thing is I don't like it. I wish I didn't have it. I'm going to have more time this summer to get my legal practice wrapped up and closed the right way. That was going to be interesting with baseball, basically 6 nights a week. I'd really rather have the craziness of baseball and law, but for me personally, it's actually going to be beneficial from that standpoint. We're all sports nuts. Everybody involved with our team, everybody involved with the league, we're all sports nuts. And if we haven't got sports to watch this summer, I mean, good golly, what are you going to do? Watch bowling or lawn darts or croquet? Or, I don't know what ESPN will come up with, probably something.
Yeah, I heard a great joke that we're all reduced to watching the birds fight for worms out in the backyard, and that the Blue Jays were leading the Cardinals 3-2 last I checked.
I like that. ESPN showed the other day their very first broadcast. It was a slow pitch softball game from out in the Midwest with a bunch of geezers, not quite my age, but a bunch of geezers. Maybe they'll go back to that. I don't know.
Maybe they'll go back to that, yeah. And I heard that ESPN's looking at broadcasting some Korean League games here in the U.S. to keep us all sane.
If it's baseball, I'll watch it, and everybody else will too.
Yeah, we'll all be watching it.
Hey, really hate to interrupt the conversation with Jay. Hope you are in. Actually, I guess I should be saying, hey, really sorry to interrupt the conversations we had with Jay Neal over the course of about a week. Anyway, but I do need to do a couple things. One, want to encourage you all to please subscribe, like, and share us. That's super important. Our mission this summer is, since we can't bring you baseball, is to share with you the excitement that happens in the Shenandoah Valley. And if you share it with your friends, you'll help us spread the news. We want to let players and families and fans everywhere know what happens here and why it's so important and what makes it so much fun. If you haven't tried it, come out and give it a try. 2021 looks like it's going to be your year to do that. There'll be a lot of pent-up demand by that point, so we encourage you to subscribe, like, and share us, and then come and enjoy it for yourself once we're back on the baseball diamond. Also want to encourage your questions, comments, thoughts, criticisms, whatever, stats. If you got a stat line you want to share it. vbleague@isomermedia.com. That's vbleague@isomermedia.com. Also want to give a shout out to our great sponsor, Grace Burrows. Grace helped us back when we were just a fledgling little live stream endeavor. She stuck with us. This is her 3rd year with us, and we are grateful to her for everything she's helped us be able to do. It's a reciprocal relationship, so Grace helps us because her readers help her. So if you haven't given historic romance a try, definitely encourage you to crack the cover of one of Grace's books. Here, take a look at her most recent endeavor. All right. We've encouraged you to like, subscribe, and share. You know where to write us if you got a question and comment, and I know a little bit more about Grace than you did before. Grace, thank you for everything you do. Now it's time to get back to the conversation with Jay Neal and give you a chance to find out just a little bit more about the Strasburg Express.
I understand that. Let me ask you this. Strasburg Express was one of the original founding teams back in 1897. I guess in 1896, they were a semi-pro team. Catch me up. What are some of the great moments that really stand out when it comes to the Strasburg Express?
Well, believe it or not, I was not around in 1896, so I can't speak with authority for those seasons. Really all I'm familiar with is the new era, which is the last 10 or 11 years. we were delighted just to get a team. Strasburg is a baseball town. Strasburg really supports its Little League and the high school team. The high school team with Coach Smoot has been successful for a number of years. Joe Balzerman is the high school coach now, and he is following along, being successful, getting those guys to the playoff, which is pretty much used to be expected every year. So it's a baseball town. It's always supported baseball well. We just assumed that factor was there, and it turned out to be there. As far as, great moments, golly, my son would have a benchmark. Parker would have a better handle on this than I would. But certainly for me,
the first year that we played, we were, I guess, in the major leagues, they'd call us an expansion franchise. And you don't normally have the talent of the other folks because Parker and Butch Barnes were recruiting that year. But basically it was cold calls. They were calling schools and introducing themselves. No one had ever heard of the Express because we never played before. So we were able to get some talented players, but we were probably on the downside compared to most of the teams in the league. But we made it through the season. We did not win 10 games. That was a goal. I think we ended up with 9. But the last game of the season, we played Front Royal, and they needed the game to get into the playoffs. It meant nothing to us because we weren't anywhere near the playoffs. But they needed to win it. Our guys were all excited about playing a meaningful game. Front Royal won't have fond recollections because we actually beat them that night. And our guys were just jumping around dancing. They weren't trying to rub it into Front Royal, a great respect for Front Royal, but they were just so excited to win a big game. And we didn't lose any players that year, which is amazing. And we didn't have any rainouts. We didn't have a single game rained out our first summer. I don't know if that will ever happen again. Yeah. As far as great players, our first year, we had a guy named Brad Zebedus, came from Presbyterian College, League's MVP. And Brad now is an attorney. In fact, we've got, I think, 3 or 4 guys that came to the Express now lawyers, not because of me, certainly, but it's interesting to follow their careers. I've lost track of the count, but we've got, I want to say 10, 15, 20 guys in the minor leagues, and we're hoping this year that we get our first guy up to the majors. We've had players up to AAA, but we've not gotten a phone call from somebody going to the show. But Brad Zebedus was great. He stands out. We had a young man whose mind, his name is jumping out of my mind right now, but he came from VMI. He was also MVP of the league, and he was absolutely tremendous. So we've had some really cool players and some really good kids coming through the league, and that's the dirty little secret about the Valley League. After a few years, players forget the games and they forget the scores, but they remember their teammates, they remember their host families, they remember all the people that work to put on the league, and that's the dirty little secret. It's all about relationships with these kids, and it's pretty special. It really is.
Thank you very much. Any names we should look for on the Major League circuit, on the rookies from the Strasburg Express?
Well, we haven't got any there yet. We've got a pitcher at AAA with the Cardinals. He's been there for a couple of years, 3 years, I think, but hasn't quite gotten at least a cup of coffee. Zach Peak was a really good pitcher for us 2 years ago. He was traded to the Orioles. I don't know where the Orioles are going to start him out, but they think of him as a heck of a prospect. So, we're just watching him and waiting. I'll be looking really forward to seeing one of our guys on the major league field.
We'll keep an eye out for him as well. We'll let you know if we hear any news.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, hey, let's take this opportunity. What do you have to say out there? I know that you've been in contact with probably the players and their families that you unfortunately won't be able to get to host in Strasburg this year. What do you have to say to those guys and to those on the other teams?
We'd all love to have looking at the rosters. We would, if we could take our roster right now and keep it for next summer, we'd do it in a heartbeat. The one thing that was going to be odd was that most teams, I'll use the term oversign, but it's not really oversigning. Once you've been around a little bit, you learn that you're going to lose players because of grades, because of injuries, because of girlfriends. Some of the girlfriends put on the pressure, darling, you've been playing baseball since January. Now you're going to Virginia for the summer. I just can't wait. And we've lost some players to that. So everyone oversigns, and the roster limit is 30. You might sign as many as 35 or 36, maybe more than that. And this year, because you're going to lose some for innings and injuries and all those things, this year when the season got cut off, all of a sudden those reasons dropped away. And so a lot of teams, ours included, we're going to have to make some tough decisions and call some players and say, we're so very sorry, but we don't have room. And I was dreading that. In fact, I was dreading it so much, I told my son, our general manager, you get to make those phone calls, not me. But so we didn't have to do that. A lot of teams are going to want to get a lot of the guys back that were going to come this summer. Some will come, some won't. It just remains to be seen. Next year, it's going to be interesting because playing time that freshmen would have gotten, some of these returning seniors are going to get. And the college coaches are going to have to really juggle to get time for the freshmen, but also the seniors. And it's going to be an interesting year in college baseball. There's going to be a ton of players up there. The rosters are going to be huge.
If there is a silver lining in this, would you agree that 2021 is going to be a great year of baseball?
I agree.
Collegiate level?
Absolutely agree. And we're all going to be so anxious to get out there. It's not even going to be funny.
Yeah. All right, Jay. Well, thank you for joining us.
Hey, I enjoyed it. Thank you a great deal.
All right, that's going to wrap it up for our tour of the 11 teams in this league. Started with Bruce Alger, the president and commissioner of the Valley League, finished with the executive vice president and president of the league. So there you have it. We've covered all 11 teams. What are we going to do now? Well, we're going to continue our mission to talk about great moments, great players, and bring you the great games. It's May 5th, which means we're 24 days from the start of our season. On May 29th, we will start to bring you the best 42 games from last year. And we're also just around the corner from really introducing you to our sports media relations director, John Leonard. We're also going to go back and introduce you to a couple of the SMDRs that were in that position before. Just talked to Scott Musa the other day. We got him lined up for a podcast. So we're really going to crack into the stats hardcore now. In the next week or so, we're really going to dive in, give you a chance to meet John Leonard, find out about the all-decade teams, and really learn about the players on them, what they did when they were in the Valley, and what they're doing now. So that's going to wrap it up for us tonight. Want to thank Jay for all his efforts. He had to put in double duty to make this conversation happen. We hope you enjoyed it. We're grateful to Jay for all he does for the Strasburg Express and the Valley League. And we're grateful to you for joining us tonight. We'll said it before, and we're going to say it all season. We wish you perfect health, and we wish you all a speedy return to the baseball diamond. And we look forward to seeing you tomorrow night right here on the YouTube Valley Baseball League channel. Thanks again for joining us on behalf of the teams in the league. I'm Graham Knight, wishing you all a safe and healthy good night.